Hello, my friends and students. Welcome back to the third part of the Janet painting, the portrait for this dog. And what I'm going to do mostly now is going to be the fur and the flighty hair that she has. And the oil is almost dry, so it's a good, that's why I waited like a day so that I could use a round liner brush and make little liney hairs. And in order for that to happen, the consistency of the paint needs to be a little bit more narrow. I mean, the brush needs to be narrow, thin, and longish. So I'm going to be using a couple of those. And also, I am going to be, I was talking to you about the consistency of the paint is going to need to be more inky, so thinner. So most of, she's got some predominant hair sticking out, and I'm mixing a tiny bit of liquid and some yellow ochre and white, because the color is kind of a sandy color. It's more like let me try to think. Okay, it's like an ivory color. And then in some areas it's kind of warm. So for the warm, I'm using burnt umber. If you don't have the burnt umber, you can just use a raw umber, a little bit of yellow added to it, and yeah, and then you mix it. As long as it's just like a brown color with a little bit of red tinge to it for certain areas. Like okay, so let me get started. What I did right here that you didn't, I got a little head start by I went into my white paint, and then I touched, like, for example, if there's a hair that's the most prominent one and it's kind of pointy right here, then you just put a line there to know that's where you're going to go. That's where you want to stop. And then right here, that's where you're headed. And that's how you know more or less where you are going to have your lightest lights in like, there's this ear right here. The edge of her ear is lighter. She's got, like, I guess that salt and pepper look in certain areas. Okay, so this way you kind of think of it like as an anchor, where you're putting a little bit of markings, and then you look at it and reassess and see if they're in the right position. And I think that they are. All right, so that's the basic shape of the lighter values where they're going to be placed. So let's see. I almost think of her like she's got like some glasses or something. That's how I think of it, like pilot glasses type of thing. So, and her, like, she's got like this big almond eyes. So yeah, so now and it's almost quite symmetrical, her markings. She's got them here, here. So at the beginning, that's the kind of things you're going to just be trying to figure out before you start painting. Just putting your little markings, see they're in the right place. You squint your eyes and you say, oh, yeah, it's about the right shape. So it's going to be divided now in different values. Okay, so once I do that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some more color in there. Let's see, get a medium-sized brush. Now, I'm reassessing my dark values because in order for this lighter area to show up, I'm going to need to have the dark value right behind it. So I'm mixing my ultramarine blue, my raw umber, and I am getting a type of a kind of a black from that mixture. So and usually I say do long sweeping strokes. You always hear me when I talk about, but in this case I don't. In this case you're just going to hear me. You can do stippling, different types of brush strokes, because it's kind of a furry hair. Some places it's furry, some places it's spiky. So there's going to be a different type of brush strokes. I need that to be darker. So if you need it to be darker, then I come in here with mix my blue and my raw umber. So at the beginning of this, it's just mainly the basic shapes. Even now, I'm not really doing that much detail. I'm just going by my negative space, and which is the space around the subject. In this case, I'm breaking it up. Her face, I'm going to call it her mask, is right here. And then, so I'm framing that up with the negative space. So now this is the space around this subject. This is the section of her lighter value. So I'm coming in here. In other words, if I don't get this dark value, then when I put in the white markings, and they're not going to show up. It's all going to be like very similar color, similar value, and that's not going to stand out. Her little mask is just going to blend in with the background. So I need to work on getting my darkest darks. And some of that darkest darks is also her eyes. And now I'm going into my burnt umber, and it's got a little more red. So I'm going to go around her eyes. And now, since I just put that white that I was using as marking spaces, I can go very easily right over it and get rid of that. And there's no more white there. But it served its purpose in giving me where I needed to go, kind of reddish. So now I'm going to do the same thing here. And another area where there's a lots of red, it's right in here. Raw umber and burnt umber, it's the same, but very similar, except one is a warm color, the reddish one, and one is just a little cooler. And they are both can be used as chromatic enhancers, which means all it means is you can use them to darken things when you mix with other colors. They're easy to mix with other colors. So that's why they come in handy very often, and whenever I recommend to just get your basic primary colors, I also recommend that you get the raw umber and the and also white. Okay, so that's basically what I am going to, what I wanted to explain to you that I was doing. Now I think I'm just going to, just so you know where I'm going with this, and how I go about getting the position of her detail, that her face and the little scraggly hairs. Now that's how you find the placement for those areas. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of the strokes that I'm going to do for when I do her. I have this round brush with a point, and I load it up like this, and then I come back, twirl it, and pull back so that I end up with a point. And also I do want it to have a little more liquidy area than normal. I mean, not, yeah, than because you're covering a bigger space and thin area. So you want to have a little more soupy consistency to carry you further, your brush. Okay, so then that's how I'm going to do it. This little, like this. Okay, so I like to, when I do this type of thing, I like to use a couple different thin brushes. I have this one here would be a good one, and then I have even a mini liner, which is right here. It's helpful. It's not necessary, but it's kind of good to have different little flighty hairs. Some of them are just really thin and long. In this way I get a variety, and then I'm going to I have yet another one here. So there's different, they're round and pointy, but they're different sizes. So now if I didn't have this, or you know, I could still do it. So don't feel like you gotta have this 3 different sizes to do them. It's just a little bit convenient, but you can use just your round brush to help you to get you to use them for this painting. So all right, now I am going to stop talking, So you probably won't hear me till my next tape. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye. Hello, I took a little break, so now I am back. And what I'm doing on this last part is assessing the values, the darkest dark against the lightest, and then the lightest light, and then filling in those areas accordingly. Now, I see this almost like it's the same value here, here, and here, right in the middle. So I am using the raw umber mixed in with a little bit of ultramarine blue. And in some areas, like right in here, I've used the burnt umber. If you don't have burnt umber, you can use mixed a little cad red. Add it to your raw umber. Okay, so a kind of a valuable tool that I use, sometimes you can just train your eye to see it that way, but I'm going back to the grayscale. So you compare the different degrees of light, dark and light. And this, when you see the background, if you squint your eyes, then you can see the degree of dark and light that you're trying to match. Once the keyhole disappears into your background, then you know, oh, okay, that's the degree of darkness that I need to achieve. And you can go depending on whatever area it is you want. If you want to assess this area here, it's lighter. What degree of value do I want? So then you go into your lighter values right in here, for example, and then you squint your eyes. Once you lose your keyhole, then that's the correct value that you would like to implement. In this case, I have got here value 6 is this area, and then I can look at my painting, at my study, and do the same thing, checking to see the value. Squint your eyes. If you lose the keyhole, then you got the right value. And that's basically how you go about figuring out where your darkest darks and lightest darks and mediums are going to be. After a while, you just know by looking at the picture or your study or your subject, you can figure it out. But it's always a good, even for very expert professional artists, they always have a value scale that they could use to reinforce their decisions, their observational skills. It's like anything, it's just skills that take time to develop. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right now. I have already assessed my values. I know where I need to go darker. So right in here. So that's kind of what this is. This part is. So, okay, so I've got this area here with the darker values. Now, I notice that up in this area, it gets a little bit lighter up in there, and I have it a little too dark. So I will go back and work on that area in a little bit. Right now, I am adding a little more darkness, and I'm mixing my raw umber, ultramarine blue. I've got almost a black, but it's more of a gray black. Once you add a tiny bit of white, then it converts it into a gray. Now there is lots of fur, different types of textures, so I come in here and give it a little bit of whoops. So now I'm doing the little stippling motion, which means you go up and down, and then you kind of, you're a little bit not so generous, not so gentle with your brush, and then you can create that little bit of that furry look. Okay, so now I'm also going to do that, but now with a lighter color, which would be like the yellow ochre, which is in quite a bit of white, and it's still a little kind of a gray, because I'm going to do like those areas on the edge. Yeah. So I'm diluting the raw umber with quite a bit of just liquid and raw umber, and a tiny bit of that blue. And like you want to do it in, even though it's kind of textury, you want to do it in the follow a grain. It grows this way, the hair. So that's, I'm doing that motion with my brush strokes. And at some point in here, it gets real flighty, like a little flighty hair. And it almost disappears. All right, I think this is about done. I may do a little more things, but I think I'm done with it. Sometimes you just need to stop. All right, thank you very much, and I will see you later on my next our next project. Thanks for watching.